What happened to you?
What happened to me? You're the walking corpse.
What do you mean?
You died, Norman.
We all love a comeback story, and when I mean comeback, I don't mean a triumphant underdog rising from the ashes. I mean when a big baddie suddenly opts to not die and then shows up as the big reveal in a sequel or an alternate movie. Seeing the arch-nemesis of your favourite superhero reappear after what seemed to be their last battle is always a surprise. Today I've tried to put together a list of supervillains who just don't seem to give up and have somehow figured out a way to come back for a second round of evil doing. Alright then, like, share, subscribe, and enjoy the ride.
It's me, Flint Marco. Do you remember?
I'm Peter, but I'm not your Peter.
What do you mean you're not my Peter?
If you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home yet, then you probably live under a rock, or maybe you just don't like movies or entertainment, or you know what? I'm not too sure why you haven't watched it yet, to be honest. Truth be told, the return of Sandman was one of the more overlooked ones in the movie because, let's be honest here, you've seen the others who've returned, right? Needless to say, Flint Marco's one big baddie who returns in No Way Home after his disappearance in Spider-Man 3. Flint's backstory is quite sad, as are all supervillain backstories, but it packs a little bit more of a punch compared to others. Flint Marco enters the franchise as an average New Yorker who hasn't had too much luck financially. He has a young daughter called Penny who has cancer. In his attempts to fund her treatment, the unemployed Flint turns to armed robbery while at the same time becoming estranged from his wife, and I'm sure you know what happens after that. We get to see him again in No Way Home due to Doctor Strange's failed spell that transports him into Tom Holland's Spider-Man universe. Although initially he wanted to be cured, he changed his opinion and chose to flee instead. Typical villain stuff, I guess. It was once again great to see Thomas Hayden Church's Flint Marco return to the big screen, seemingly in the exact same way we left him back during the events of Spider-Man 3 from 2007.
It's okay, Flint. We're gonna get you home. Just stay right here.
Okay, before we move to our next entry, I want to thank today's sponsor, Babel. Learning multiple languages is a special kind of skill, and it also gives you added riz. So who better to go to than one of the top language learning apps in the world, Babel. Babel has helped me learn French, German, and Spanish with such ease that I feel like I should start visiting these countries just to make use of all of these new languages. Now look, it's not just about personal opinions either. Babel also has the power of science on its side, which has proven that Babel can help you speak a new language within 3 weeks. Also, legit and validated language teachers are designing and curating these courses, so it's proper hands-on experience being integrated for you. If you're still not sure, then they're also offering a 20-day money-back guarantee. I just went straight ahead with a lifetime subscription because es ist die beste Wahl. That's German for it's the best choice. See, I told you I'm becoming a pro. Of course, the TV Regent is always looking out for you, so I'm helping you with 60% off on your Babel subscription. Just click on the link in my description and become a master linguist.
But it cast me out, banished me here, guiding others to a treasure I cannot possess.
Can you believe it's already been 11 years since the first Captain America film? Man, we're getting old. At least that doesn't affect the big baddie from Cap's first film. I won't get into too much of the details because we're all MCU fans here. We've seen the movies and we know who this guy really is. Red Skull's backstory isn't really known or displayed in the MCU, but it's quite evident that he was a big deal in Nazi Germany during the Second World War. Also, it's quite surprising to see the Nazis be so inclusive, allowing a man with a literal skull for a head that's blood red in colour to walk around giving orders like no one's business. I mean, if they were that inclusive, they probably wouldn't have been cold-blooded killers, invading everything that fell to their eyesight and doing all sorts of other incredibly horrendous deeds that just wouldn't be great to talk about right now, just saying. Anyway, after his fight with Steve Rogers aboard a plane that was transporting the Tesseract and he gets defeated, Schmidt disintegrates at the touch of the Tesseract, seemingly killing him off in that sequence because, well, the Tesseract was a little too powerful for him. Now, I know what you're thinking, he technically didn't die, but until the events of Avengers Infinity War, we still thought he had. Here we learnt that he instead was transported to the planet Vormir, where he became the guardian of the Soul Stone as punishment for his crimes. And in Avengers Endgame, we get a good look at him as he presents Clint Barton with the Soul Stone after he sacrificed Black Widow to get it. So he did technically come back from the dead, but this time he was less of a menace and more of a prisoner.
In order to take the stone, you must lose that which you love. An everlasting exchange.
Dr. Kirk Connors, he was a scientist at Oscorp when I worked there. A brilliant scientist, until he turned himself into a lizard.
Another entry from No Way Home is Dr. Curtis Connors, or the Lizard, as he's now called on the streets. Curtis Connors was a scientist at Oscorp who developed a serum replicating the self-healing process of lizards with the intent of regaining his lost right arm. While he did regain his arm, let's just say the serum had some side effects, one of which was transforming him into a mutant lizard with a dangerous alter ego. Considering there's a large group of people that think the world is being run by lizard people, this seems more legit than fiction. I'm talking about you, Mark Zuckerberg.
I'm not. I am not a lizard.
Anyway, in this lizard form, he believed that he had achieved the next stage of human evolution and attempted to release his serum throughout New York City, effectively transforming everyone in it. But he was defeated by Spider-Man, effectively killing off the lizard in Curtis Connors. In No Way Home, though, a previous version of Connors appears, one who's still affected by the serum and is in lizard form. Over the events of No Way Home, there are glimpses of the lizard still preaching his belief that this was the next step in human evolution. After the battle at Liberty Island, Doctor Strange returns him along with the rest of the villains back to their respective universes and timelines. Even though he isn't the baddest of the bad, it's still great to see him return to the MCU franchise.
You know I can give you a real makeover.
Let me guess. Into a lizard?
Exactly. You two just shut up.
And all of them as artificial as the Matrix itself. Although only a human mind could invent something as insipid as love.
Over the course of all 4 movies, Agent Smith just didn't seem to die. He showed up in all the movies, reprising his role as the ultimate arch-nemesis of Neo. Now, there aren't many baddies as big as Agent Smith. Well, mostly because Neo and his buddies just didn't seem to be able to stop the guy. I mean, I get it, he's literally a program that can make infinite copies of himself, but like, he's up against Neo, the chosen one, and Neo takes all of the 4 movies to finally get rid of Agent Smith. That makes Agent Smith pretty badass. In Matrix Revolutions, Smith absorbs Neo and for a moment believes himself to be the victor, but he totally isn't. After copying himself into Neo, Smith exposed himself to the machine's mainframe in such a way that the machines delete Smith, with him and his clones exploding in a simultaneous flash of white light, ending the war for good. Okay, spoiler alert now if you haven't watched Matrix Resurrections yet. During the events of Matrix Resurrections, Smith takes a different form after his original body was destroyed in the previous movie. He worked as Neo's partner in a video game company. Taking on a new outer shell to avoid deletion, Smith was found by the Analyst, who turned Neo and Smith's bond into a chain, and while Neo remained tethered to the system, so too did Smith. And just like that, stealthily, Agent Smith returned to the Matrix universe, because you can't really just let go of an ultimate evil character like Agent Smith now, can you?
I've been thinking about us, Tom. About binaries that form the nature of things.
Peter Quinn sounds like such a regular guy who probably has a day job and a couple of kids living in a suburban house like your average Joe, but repeatedly stabbed and chopped with silver weapons and survives and returns for a final showdown with Blade. After Blade is captured by Frost's minions, Quinn gets some payback.
The power is different. I like it.
If you already haven't realized, this list will contain a bunch of baddies from the Spider-Man movies, because, well, most of them return in No Way Home. Electro, for those of you who already didn't know, is played by Jamie Foxx, the same guy who did Django Unchained, Ray and Baby Driver, and considering these movies aren't even remotely like Spider-Man, it's incredible to see him switch roles with such ease. This Electro, of course, is from a previous time, when Electro was still alive and kicking in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. In the final battle with Spider-Man at Oscorp's main power grid, Spider-Man overcharged Electro with energy, causing him to explode, seemingly putting an end to Electro's crazy ambition of being someone. He returns in No Way Home due to the failed spell of Doctor Strange, and even though Tom Holland's Peter Parker tried to cure him, he once again returns to his evil, doing ways, looking at all the possibilities in this universe he was transported to. After the battle at Liberty Island, Electro is cured, and once returned to normal, he lets go of his hostility towards his Spider-Man, acknowledging that he has helped a lot of people, and explaining that all he wanted was to be noticed, before being sent back by Doctor Strange's final spell. Electro should have just auditioned for a play or something. If he really wanted to be someone, he could have probably made big bucks on his acting career.
How you like the new? Look, you give it to me, I'm gonna destroy it. But I'll let you live.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? back to me.
He's one of the biggest, baddest bad guys in superhero films from recent times, and it's only fair that he'd come back from the dead. Well, sort of. In modern pop culture, Thanos has been transformed into memes, into motivation content, and into strange yet cute soft toys. I really don't know how they managed to do that last one. Needless to say, when you think about the bigger picture here, the purple demigod kind of had a point when he snapped his finger, or maybe that's just my incredibly sadistic side speaking there, apologies for that. Though Thanos doesn't die before he wipes out half of all existence in the universe, in the events of Avengers Endgame, towards the beginning of the movie, our trusted Avengers figure out where Thanos is living out his retirement on a farm on a distant planet away from all the destruction in what seemed like a self-made peace. This is where the Avengers ambush him, and this time Thor goes for his head, killing the Mad Titan even after revealing to them that he destroyed the Infinity Stones so that no one could undo what he did. The events of Endgame play out as we all know, and if you don't, you really should go back and watch that movie. As the Thanos of a previous time gets to know that the Avengers are hard at work collecting the stones from previous times, he manages to bring himself and his entire army to the current timeline where the final incredible Avengers vs Thanos army takes place. He is, of course, eventually slain by Iron Man, who gives Thanos one of the greatest comebacks in movie history.
And I am Iron Man.
And then snaps his fingers to completely undo everything that's happened. Long story short, Thanos, the Mad Titan, was inevitable, but like all villains in this world, good always prevails.
I am inevitable.
I have been falling for 30 minutes!
Not so much of a villain than an anti-hero, Loki's always been a fan favourite for many, but in all fairness, he was a pretty big pain in the rear in the first Avenger and Thor movies, so this entry is pretty darn justified. He technically is an annoying little brother who just won't shut up sometimes. In the Dark World, Loki betrays Thor, tricking Malekith drawing the Aether out of Jane, but Thor's attempt to destroy the exposed substance fails. Malekith emerges with the Aether and leaves in his ship as Loki appears to be fatally wounded, saving Thor from Curse, whom Loki was able to kill through trickery. After Thor defeats Malekith, he returns to Asgard to decline Odin's offer to take the throne and tells Odin of Loki's sacrifice. Once Thor leaves, it's revealed to us that Loki has actually survived and taken Odin's place on the throne disguised as Odin. What a guy! Loki rules Asgard disguised as Odin, having kept the real Odin under a spell on Earth. Well, there's a lot that we've already seen in these movies, of which one big detail is his death in Avengers Infinity War, but the character was once again brought back in the Disney miniseries Loki, but this Loki is from a different timeline, creating all sorts of havoc elsewhere. So yeah, Loki totally deserves to be on this list.
You were trying to kill everybody. Where are you at these days?
It varies from moment to moment.
Hello, Peter.
It's safe to say that Spider-Man No Way Home is the pinnacle of evil comebacks, and with this entry comes yet another baddie from the film. Fan favourite Doc Ock will be greatly remembered from the original Spider-Man series, 2004 Spider-Man to be exact, and with No Way Home he revisits the franchise yet again. Although Doc Ock is portrayed as the mad scientist sort, he too should have pursued a career in acting. The man would have done a great job being one of the characters of The Big Bang Theory, only if it was released 3 years earlier. Turns out he's pretty good at being a supervillain too. During the events of Spider-Man 2, with Spider-Man's help, Octavius manages to regain control of his arms, and to atone for his actions, he sacrificed himself to destroy his machine, drowning it in the river, as if it was the only way to halt the unstable reaction. That would seem like the end of it, until 17 years later when he reappeared in Spider-Man No Way Home. With Doctor Strange's failed spell bringing back old Marvel baddies into the current universe, Doc Ock is probably the only person who helps Peter out in his quest to cure the rest of the villains, including himself. Octavius intervened in the battle at Liberty Island by tricking Electro and the other Peter Parkers into thinking he was once again Dr. Octopus and under the control of his tentacles. Then, Octavius quickly revealed his deceit by removing the arc reactor and attaching Electro's cure to him. In No Way Home, he wasn't such a baddie after all.
Well, it's good to see you, dear boy.
It's good to see you.
You're all grown up.
Gods don't have to choose. We take
Spider-Man's ultimate baddie shows up once again in No Way Home, reprising his role as the absolutely sinister Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn. Now, we all know this guy. He's like one of the greatest supervillains of all time, a perfect mix of crazy, evil, and just an outright psychopath. Those might not be good things in the real world, but in the MCU it makes for some of the best cinematic moments played by the masterful William Dafoe. In the first Spider-Man, Norman reasons with Peter that it was the serum and the evil side of him that had made him turn to crime, but the Green Goblin is controlling his jet glider and attempts to stab Spider-Man with it, but he leaps out of the way just before it collides with him. Norman is impaled and killed as a result, and that was the end of that. Like we all know already in No Way Home though, after Strange's failed spell, he too shows up along with the rest of the villains. Osborne found himself lost in a New York City that he didn't recognize, as he found out that someone else had taken residence at his address, and apparently there was no such thing as Oscorp or Harry Osborn in the universe. As the events of the movie plays out, his Green Goblin alter ego eventually takes over Norman Osborn and kills Peter's Aunt May, along with causing all sorts of havoc, as well as reuniting the villains with a plan to escape. The final battle with Tom Holland's Peter Parker and the Green Goblin is absolutely epic. Set on Liberty Island, the battle eventually ends with the defeat of Norman Osborn as an enraged Peter is stopped by the other Spider-Men from killing him, who is still mourning the loss of his only family member, Aunt May.
I may have struck the blow, but you... you are the one that killed her.
Oh yeah, make sure you check out the link in my description if you want 60% off your Babel subscription. Et plus tard. That's French for see you later. That's it for this video. What are your favourite supervillains who came back from the dead? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this content, do consider subscribing to the TV Regent and hitting that like button. You have no idea how much it helps us. As always, see you in the next video. Peace.